to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Tuesday, May 13th. Welcome in, one and all, the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Jason Moore, Mike, the Fantasy Hitman. I'm Andy Holloway. And here we are again. Another fine episode of the podcast coming your way right now.
It's kind of special one. This
Yes.
isn't a normal week.
No, we are 19 days away from the Ultimate Draft Kit releasing June 1st, as it does every year for the past, how many years have we had the draft?
Don't worry about it.
10?
Yeah.
No,
Nine,
9,
something like
10,
that.
something like that. But we have been plugging away this past weekend on player projections for every player on every team, all three of us, and we are just about there. Been working on that for a while. Excited, all the sleepers, the breakouts, the busts, the values, everything you need to win your league, getting those things ready for June 1st. And part of the month of May, which it is, well, I'll push this button.
Welcome to Dynasty Week.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, very nice.
So it's year 5
Dynasty
Week.
Week is back. 2 episodes this week. We'll focus on some Dynasty topics. Today we've got trade for and trade away candidates for Dynasty Leagues. We have a good Dynasty-themed quick question that we'll be jumping into momentarily. And we got a giveaway, a very easy-to-enter giveaway for the next week, a signed Nico Collins jersey. If you would like to enter, it is free to enter at footclangiveaway.com. We'll give away that signed Nico Collins jersey. I don't know where Nico ended up in either of your rankings. Was it
It was pretty good.
better or worse than you may have thought?
Honestly, it was right where I thought. He doesn't strike me as like a top 3 wide receiver, but he's locked in the top 10.
So
He's chilling at number 5 for me right
I
now.
was gonna say, to me, it does, like, of all the people that could finish number 1 on the year, he is in that category.
I think
For
he could,
sure.
I think he could, yeah.
Just on the basis of if the touchdowns come his way. I think that's, none of us have C.J. Stroud ranked really high.
Correct.
He's an interesting name for Dynasty Leagues as well right now.
For sure. Young,
probably-
stud, great quarterback who,
Was the, QB2 or something?
I mean,
in Dynasty.
Yeah.
Expectations for what can be. And it wasn't that last year. So that'll be an interesting name to see broken down for 2020. Like, can he redeem some of that value in 2025?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, C.J. Stroud was as hot as any player in fantasy, especially in Dynasty going in last year. And so you've always got the post-hype sleepers, the guys that disappoint on the hype on one year. People kind of swing the pendulum too far the other way, and then they come back and they're like, oh, yeah, that was the player that we love. Now, it could be that. It could be Baker, because Baker is like, he was always the comp for last year's C.J. Stroud of how crazy people got for C.J. Stroud. Like, he was going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. He's going to have a decade of being a top 3 fantasy quarterback. And that was what happened back in the day with Baker Mayfield when they added Odell Beckham in the offseason after his incredible rookie year. And it was like, okay, this is the next king. And then, I mean, Baker's back, but he took himself a tumble to, like, you're talking to waiver wires in single quarterback dynasty. Well, probably not waiver, but
His story,
At a certain point, I'm sure he did.
Oh, Baker definitely
Yeah.
did. Yeah, I mean, his story is, like, very difficult for anybody to ever repeat. It's so rare for a player to fall out of favor and play poorly for so long and then come back and find his footing.
thank you, McVay.
Yes.
It was the scent of McVay.
Just a moment.
That's all you need,
For the
man.
Rams.
You just need to be around him a little bit.
So here's a Dynasty quick question. How do you know when you've turned the corner from a rebuild into a contender? I did laugh
At my answer?
at your answer.
Yeah, I mean,
what you wrote down here.
It's the freaking truth.
What is how do you know when you've turned the corner from a rebuild to a contender?
When your team's good. I mean, people overthink this like crazy. It's like just look at your
The team with the most points at the end of the game is going to win, guys.
I'm just saying, people wait too long. They say, "Oh, I'm a rebuilding team, so I can't be a contender." If your team is good, I'm not saying best, I'm not saying top 3, just is it good? Do you have good players? Can you win, more than half of your games? If your team is good, then you should consider yourself a contender. Like, you should be in the situation where all you got to do is make the playoffs.
So let me translate that into a slightly more complex answer.
Okay.
Because I think that's obviously true. I mean, maybe it's, making the playoffs. Like, is your team a playoff contender? Because once you get into the playoffs, anybody can win that. It happens every year. But maybe we don't get so locked into this identity of how long it's going to take you to rebuild your team. Because if you set out to be a rebuilding team and then you get surprised, some of the players that you've drafted, you have an opportunity to win now, I think I would say don't pass up that chance because you don't know that that's going to continue forever. So if you've got good players, you've identified yourself as a rebuilding team, but you're surprising halfway through the year, yeah, be willing to go in. That doesn't mean to abandon all of your youth and your plans and your project, but that might mean adding a couple of veterans because those are always available on a huge discount. I mean, Al Borland just did this past weekend, trading with me, who is, I hate to say this,
it's
messing with my
This is big news.
This is my whole identity, but I am actually rebuilding. It has been since the beginning of this show.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, no, tank.
No,
man.
I do not believe you for 1 second. Here's what's going to happen. I'm just calling it now.
Oh, okay. You don't believe that I'm rebuilding?
Correct.
Well, he's rebuilding as of right now.
Okay, that's fair. That will last for, I would say, till week 1. Maybe till week 1.
I just traded Kelsey and Kamara away, and I traded them to a team that has been rebuilding and has the potential to win.
It's rebuilt.
It's rebuilt, and that would be Al Borland's team along with Kyle,
Whose
the Borgogan, Kyle's team.
Yeah.
And they've rebuilt it, and then they decided to add Kelsey and Kamara to give themselves a shot at a run. Now, that was a mitigated, a safe level risk. Like, they didn't trade all their young players for old players or anything like that. It's not like, you have to go all in and give yourself no future. It's just don't be afraid to make the moves you need to make to win this year just because you think you're in a rebuild. If it's going good, help it win a title.
Yeah, my favorite thing you just said is don't make your identity a rebuilding team. Like, that's not what your team is. Okay, you're in rebuild mode, okay.
You're in a pit stop.
Yes, exactly.
You're just getting some new tires on real quick, and you'll be right back out.
100%. Sometimes people get too caught up with, oh, I'm a rebuilder. It's like, no, you don't want. Do you want to always be a rebuilder? No, just get some new wheels on there and get ready to press the gas.
But I'm rebuilding, Jay.
You have draft picks now, right?
A few.
So, which is rare for you,
right.
almost impossible.
Right. I have some.
I have his second next year, so I really hope he rebuilds.
Yeah. He will
That'll be like a first.
Yeah. He will be using those picks this season to trade for assets to go and win.
Maybe.
If I start well.
Yeah.
I'm open to it. But no, look, it's a good answer. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like looking at your starting roster. Is the majority of your starting roster good players? As Jason Moore said, is your team good? Because depth is very difficult, and there's things about your bench that you don't know right now. Like everyone is in a dynasty league. Not everyone, but the majority of teams have do you have 2 starting running backs? Because if you have 2 starters, you're doing better than a lot of people. But then your bench can be full of these backups who, as of the recording of this show in early May, those guys have little to no value. And then week 6, all of a sudden, you have an RB2 on your bench. Things change rapidly. So is your starting roster right now looking like a team that can win, that can beat out half of the league? And so that's my starting point.
I'm sad.
Because you got to rebuild?
Yeah, I'm sad to be accepting reality in this situation. Because
you pushed it way further than we thought you could.
I genuinely don't feel like I won enough titles. That's the truth.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, it was a long run, and I didn't win enough. And that's why you're playing to win. I held on for a long time. I felt like I was in an advantage position because everybody wanted to rebuild. And so I was always in this position to take on older players, which I think helped a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I see Jason still doesn't believe me.
Not
I can tell.
for
I can
one
tell he
second.
still doesn't believe me. Have you seen my team?
Oh, yeah. No, I know. It's trash. You'll be back quick.
I hope so.
And as soon as you smell a victory, you'll buy in.
Maybe. We'll see.
News and notes from around the league.
This is a big one.
Oh, man.
We got to say goodbye to
Send it in.
we got to say goodbye to a drop we've had since the first year of this show. I mean, he predates the first episode of this podcast.
Send in the car. Send in the car.
Derek Carr.
They are sending him into retirement.
Yes.
This was a bit of a shocker. Derek Carr announced his retirement from the NFL after 11 seasons. We are going into our 11th season. And, he was dealing with shoulder issues. It seemed like he was positioning for a trade or to find a new team, and it turned out he's done.
Yeah, his shoulder issue, he got soreness, and he was trying to, see if he could just kind of play through that or rest, rehabilitate. And then it was determined that the only way that he could come back was surgery, miss a season, come back next year, and he decided to walk away to go into retirement. And if you haven't seen the day one retirement video, like on Instagram, it is the most wholesome, awesome, like, I don't know if you like Derek Carr or not, but watch that video and you're like, I like Derek Carr.
Derek Carr
I'm happy for him.
He's retiring, so it's the time to give him his flowers. Like an 11-year career he was a starting quarterback for 11 years. I don't remember if he started right away as a rookie, but he was he was not scheduled to start as a rookie where he was drafted. But to turn that into the career that he did, it's incredible. It always felt like you were just a little too short, except for that.
I'll remember
year 3.
The Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree combo to begin that year. I think they were undefeated through a bunch of games, or very close to it.
Carr was pacing that year to be an MVP candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And then
He
he
got
broke
hurt.
his ankle or
Yeah.
something right at the very end.
He was 17.9 fantasy points per game. His highest was that year. But fantasy finish-wise, man, he was the
quarterback
king of the
too.
QB2s.
He was the quarterback too. He was 20, 14, 13, 19, 19, 17, 13, 13, 15.
He's just a teenager.
So yeah, that's it. We no more cars.
No more
And
Carr.
now the question becomes what happens next for the Saints, for the team, for Tyler Shuck, for the Olave and Kamara. I mean, the fantasy ramifications here are very impactful, very important to diagnose. It would have been better with Derek Carr. More fantasy points all the way around for everybody. But Derek Carr was also, especially at this stage of his career, not something that was so spectacular that, they can't move forward from.
Right, it's tough. I mean, talk about just on a platter for Tyler Shuck. I mean, you were selected ahead of Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel and Jalen Milroe, and you have an opportunity now to compete with Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener, both of whom we already saw.
Which means you are the starter.
You just won. We've seen
Shuck
those guys.
If he's not starting in week 1, something has gone.
Yeah, shuck him off your dynasty team at that point.
It's gone real bad.
So today's episode is trade for and trade away candidates. We had our guys kind of penciled in last week as we prepared. And I told Kyle, you need to add one more player to this because right now, if I had Tyler Shuck, I am 100% trading him away. The hype is wonderful. It's
Just
perfect.
recouping.
I don't feel like there's
Well, there might not be a
I don't
market,
think
but
that there's really hype or a market for him. It's just now he's a starter.
in 2 quarterback leagues, I really think people they're willing to pay something for a starting quarterback, especially the teams just starving. I mean, there's always a couple teams in 2 quarterback leagues that they basically don't even have a quarterback.
I'll
too.
trade you very little for him. But
Sure.
I think he's going to be the starter for the Saints for years.
He might be. So
I think that's the most likely outcome.
I went and I watched after recently I watched a bunch more of his tape, and I will be completely honest, I really liked him. I liked him.
That's why he's recommending
so did
trading
the
him
Saints.
away.
I liked him as much as, in fact, personally, a little bit more than Jackson Dart. But I don't see him as a first-round talent. I see him as a second-round talent, which is where he got drafted. And the thing is day two quarterbacks, they are a trap for everyone, including NFL teams. If they were talented enough, they'd be taken in the first. They weren't. They would have been taken by the team that drafted them, and they fall. If you look since 2014, 24 day two quarterbacks being selected. Of those 24, there's only 3 of relevance, which is Derek Carr, Jalen Hurts, and Jimmy Garoppolo. Pretty much, other than that, only 3 had a starting job for more than one full season. This is a team that's going to have a top 10 pick next year, probably, with Tyler Shuck. So, dynasty-wise, you could make an argument that his value might be the highest today of all time.
Yeah, I think this move, the retirement, Rashid Shaheed, it's brutal for him. He had a special connection with Derek Carr. Olave is still going to be the number 1, but we saw how bad it can be on offense for the Saints last year when they don't have Derek Carr. And so you are gambling. I mean, Alvin Kamara, the checkdowns, he'll probably be fine.
The checkdowns will be there, but the offense is worse.
But the offense is worse. And, Olave's already a risk, regardless of quarterback, just due to the concussion history. And so you're looking at look, I think I said it a few weeks ago. I don't think the Saints are a good football team. I just don't. I just don't think in that division they're going to be able to compete. And I thought that with this shaky Carr situation, so to Jason's point about maybe having another top 10 pick, it could happen. It's, the offense has got to figure it out. I like Tyler Shuck's film too, personally. So I think he will be the starter. We've seen enough of those other 2 guys.
Alvin Kamara was really good on a per game basis last year. He outperformed his draft price and all that. But if you take a look at the Derek Carr games, the first month of the season, Alvin Kamara was averaging 24.5 fantasy points per game. That's incredible.
That would have been number 1.
Yeah, and then after the last 10 games, he was averaging 13.3, which is still a relevant fantasy option, but it is a massive step down.
Yeah, that's true. And he'll be the guy. It'll just be the guy on a team that you don't necessarily love the offense for. And, that kind of feels a little bit like Tennessee last year when they were playing quarterback roulette and we didn't, Pollard was okay. Good sometimes, not good sometimes. Jonathan Brooks on the PUP, officially placed there by the Panthers, won't play in 2025, which means Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, and some other fellas like Trevor Etienne will be the backfield in Carolina. I love Chuba Hubbard this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good running back. He's just a great running back.
I do. I think Chuba is a good running back as well. His ADP should be fine, but he's one of the players that'll be interesting like the way that Rico was brought in and the way that Chuba slowed down at the end. I think the timeshare is closer. It's still Chuba's team, so I'm not declaring this Rico, but I'm saying eating away more at the work than we will be happy with.
James Cook declined to say whether he'll hold out for a new contract.
Do people really hold out anymore? Aren't they only hold-ins because of the...
Yeah.
So he could just say, yeah, I won't.
He should have just said, I'm not going to hold out.
Yeah.
I'm not lying.
Nick Chubb's days as a Cleveland Brown seem to be over. This was Cleveland general manager Andrew Berry saying that it is unlikely the team brings him back.
That one, Nick Chubb was a player that I feel like everyone liked.
Yeah, for sure.
Like there's running backs out there that a lot of people like, and they're high-profile running backs. But there's groups that you're like, I don't think that player is as good. But Nick Chubb was just that dude, and then that whatever week 2 or week 3 knee injury was that was dark.
We also found out that the Eagles will host the Cowboys in the first game of the season.
That's a fun one.
And George Pickens, welcome
Sure.
to the East.
I dig
that'll be
that.
fun.
This whole we're slowly rolling out the schedule.
It is. Don't get me started.
NFL. Look, NFL.
I love the NFL, but
yeah,
my eyes have rolled
we are
into
on
the back of my
We
head.
haven't discussed this, but we
No.
are on the exact same page of
a press release about a press release.
Stop it. Just release the schedule. Let us buy our tickets.
It's not that cool.
Yeah.
It's not that cool.
You
love it, don't you, Jay?
I don't love it, but I understand it, and they're doing exactly what they should do because they own the press always. If they can put out one piece of information and have press releases and every sports news and Twitter and social
All right, social media, stop it.
Here's a new one.
Stop enabling this.
Never announce a schedule. You just get on a plane. You don't know where you're going.
Now we're
in
talking.
week 1. You fly somewhere. When you land, you know who you're playing. That's what I want.
When is the official release? It's like tomorrow or something, right?
Yeah, I think it's Wednesday, yeah.
Yep. So.
Maybe. Who knows?
Well, Jason will be front row at the event. All right, we'll take a break. Come back with some trade
What
talk.
city's hosting this?
Oh, gosh, no.
Oh, my God.
All right, Jason's got his tickets to fly out for the schedule release. Figure it out in that break. Let's talk trades.
Let's talk trades.
Spectacular
Had
video
you seen
graphic.
that video
I
graphic?
don't remember it,
I saw it this morning.
but I liked it.
That's a new one. That's a new one from The Biggest Loser. Very nice. All right, we're talking trades. Players to trade for, players to trade away in Dynasty based on where we're at right now. Middle of May. Players you might want to, put on the roster. For me, I'll start.
Go ahead.
The trade for candidate for me is, I think we're going to enter a window here for Justin Herbert that I think will be extremely good for your Dynasty team. I think we're entering now. I'm not going to go as far as Super Bowl champions that Jason may have. He made a lot of Chargers fans very happy, but I do think that the stability on the team, the addition of Ladd McConkey, Trey Harris, Mike Williams, Johnston's still there, the weapons that they have, Hampton out of the backfield, Justin Herbert. I don't think anybody would argue that he's one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in football.
No, that dude can chuck it.
I mean, he is a tremendous passer. He is able to evade pressure. He can throw on the run. He can make plays when it matters. And he's 27 years old. Now, Mike, he was one of your trade targets in the Dynasty pass.
He has been, because I am with you. I think that he's undervalued.
That's the reason I want people to go after him right now, is I think that there's a chance that you could trade a quarterback, for Justin Herbert and a little something. And maybe you're not really taking a downgrade in Dynasty. This was a player who in his first 3 seasons was a quarterback 9, 2, and 11. So we know what's in the arsenal. These were years he was throwing for 4,300 to 5,000 yards. Injuries, offensive philosophy, they took a toll on the past 2 years. And I just think that this team is heading in the direction where, look, they proved they were willing to put more on his plate over the back half of the year.
Yes.
And he's got a head coach who loves him, more weapons. Do they have enough weapons? I'm not sure exactly, but you look at that post-bye week Justin Herbert last season, he was top 10 in neutral pass rate and completion percentage and yards per game and EPA per pass and explosive plays. And he's got more weapons than he's had in a while. So, 8 top 12 performances in fantasy from week 8 on. That's second place behind Lamar Jackson. I think Justin Herbert is one of those players, and I even mean it in redraft. Like, if you're talking a later round quarterback this year in redraft, or acquiring him on the cheap in Dynasty, because you're at this stage of his career where people think they might have him figured out and what he's going to be. And I think there's a fatigue there in Dynasty that you can benefit from if you're looking to pick him up. And, I don't know if that's Baker, right? Or somebody like that in that category where you could go get Herbert plus a little something for Baker. I don't know. But I think he's a trade for target.
I like going after Herbert, not because I think it is an absolute home run of go get Herbert. I promise you that things are turning around this season. It's not that at all, but it's in the range of outcomes. He has shown us he can do those things. And for pocket passers, like, try and go trade for one of the runners. It's going to cost you so much. So you okay,
the running quarterback.
Yeah, the running quarterback. So now I got to find a pocket passer who I think could do a Joe Burrow. Like, try and go get Joe Burrow. You're not going to be able to do it. But Justin Herbert, in the right system has shown he can be a 5K 40-plus touchdown type of a player, and it's the fact that it's hard to see the path for that to come back. Even this year, we're working on our redraft rankings. I'm like, oh man, I know the second half was so much better for Herbert, but it's tough for me to get him into my top 12. But I know that the talent is there, and betting on talent in Dynasty over situation is frequently if you go with that path, you're going to win more than you lose.
There's a really good historical comp to me, and that's Matthew Stafford. Nobody has ever doubted that Matthew Stafford was a top-tier arm talent quarterback in the league, but there were ebbs and flows in his early
started
years
so hot
in Detroit.
Aside from the injuries.
Yeah, I mean, he was quarterback 5 in 2011, 10, and 7, had an off year, came back with top 10 finishes. I see those two players, obviously not at this stage of Stafford's career, but as an early career Matthew Stafford, to what's going on with Herbert, I think there's an opportunity.
Yeah, and obviously this is for Dynasty. This isn't like saying that this year he's going to be the best. I think he's going to be a quality fantasy quarterback this year to be a top 10 quarterback. But yeah, when you're looking for trades, whether you're trading for or trading away, it's really just about value.
Yes.
Is this player undervalued or is this player overvalued? You capitalize on that, and a lot of times if you take away the player's name, and you just think about the situation and then compare that to the value, it's like a no-brainer. So I'll go next because I think this one is a no-brainer. I'm going to take the name away. There is a first-round wide receiver, an NFL-drafted first-round wide receiver who went to a great offense with a great offensive head coach who has produced a lot of fantasy success. In fact, he has produced a guy in the last 3 years who's been a 2-time top 12 wide receiver. Oh, but that player's no longer on the team. Now, granted, there is another star wide receiver on this team. Wait, he's injured. So you're telling me that there is a wide receiver drafted last year in the first round on his rookie contract who has a pathway on a great offense, a 10.5 win projected team total, and he is currently being drafted in Dynasty startups as the 101st player. Is that how you say that?
Yeah. No.
Definitely 100% how you got it.
101st player.
Yep.
Now that I say it sounds even worse than the first time.
No, that's good. I like that.
How about this? He's the 47th wide receiver in
46th.
Dynasty. 47th. He's the 47th drafted wide receiver in Dynasty startups. You can take everything else away and say, I know that's undervalued.
All right, Mike, it's your turn now.
Now let's talk about the player. It's Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall was a player I liked going into last year. He was a good route runner. He has unbelievable hands. If there is a catchable ball, he will catch it. You should see him do thumb wars. Undefeated.
Oh.
His hands are incredible.
That's a stat we should get in the UK.
The thumb war.
Thumb weight? Is that
It's dexterity.
Oh, thumb dexterity.
Yes, which helps you catch the ball.
I'm guessing Kenny Pickett's not very good on that one.
Oh,
his hands.
I know. So you love the first round pedigree.
I do.
I liked him as a prospect. He's got the avenue with Debo gone and Brandon Ayuk currently injured. He's on a good 10-win upside team. But let's look at how he actually played. You can't get on his case for a slow rookie season. He got shot.
He did.
He got shot in the chest. He got shot through. And it wasn't a late night like, he's going out to the clubs. What do you expect 4 in? This was just a robbery out in the daylight where he should have died. And he got lucky. He didn't even get on the get on the field until week 7.
Just
which
curious.
Is still wild to get on week 7.
If you're shot once, does it lower your chance of ever being shot again?
Has to.
Well, like lightning?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
statistically?
Well, if you got struck by lightning once, wouldn't you feel a little more worried about it a second time?
Well, it never strikes twice.
Oh, that's true.
It's not. But
I'm just wondering if he's
say.
Gotten his possible shooting out of the way.
Maybe.
He, of course, has, because I promise you, if you've been shot, you are more cautious about getting shot. That's just my guess. But
you haven't had yours
I'm not
yet?
leaving.
I don't know if you guys even remember the last 2 games of the year with Ricky Pearsall, 8 for 141 and a touchdown on 10 targets in Week 17 against Detroit, and 6 for a very nice 69 and a touchdown on 8 targets against Arizona.
I don't remember it being that good.
Yeah, well, he had 3 top 15 finishes, all with more than 15 fantasy points in the second half of the season. He is one of only 19 wide receivers in the last decade with that. And if you look at the list of players, I mean, they're almost all stars.
The 3 games of
15 or more points in the second half of their rookie season. Tyreek Hill, Juju Smith-Schuster, Debo, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Ayuk, Amon-Ra. I mean, the list is great. All of them, literally all of them, except for Christian Watson with injuries and Brandon Ayuk in the doghouse, if you remember that, had top 24 seasons the next year. So it's just one of those things where I look at his situation says he's way undervalued, and I think his talent says people look at his rookie season like it was a failure. But the dude got shot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think people look at it as a failure. I think they look at it as almost lost.
Sure.
Almost more just like maybe they didn't,
but it's
those
impacting
numbers at the end of the year, people forget the end of the year. That's for sure. People are out of the playoffs. They didn't even pay attention. If you're not playing in the playoffs with Ricky Pearsall on your team, you miss those numbers. Those are good to bring forward because he didn't have the opportunity in the first half of the year to prove himself.
Right, and then he was playing behind, Ayuk and Debo and in his rookie season. So I also just saw a clip. Thank you, Jennings. I saw a clip today of Brock Purdy talking up Pearsall and how he stays late. He runs routes with them after practice. He's always in the right spot. And
why is Purdy running routes?
They're busted. And they're going golfing early in the morning.
Golf narrative.
Kind of like breakfast.
Golf is like breakfast to you?
Well, you get up early.
You're better at breakfast.
I'm way better at breakfast.
All right, Mike, who do you got? You want to trade away or trade for?
I'll just give you my trade for. Trading for running backs in Dynasty is tough because running backs can expire quickly, and you're like, oh, man, I just gave up all these assets to go get some guy who was good on my team for a year. But the name I want to throw out because I think that he is undervalued on the market compared to what he has done and what his age is at where he can still give you multiple years. That is Kenneth Walker, a.k.a. Ken Bone Walker, and I'll get the age out of the way right away here. He's 24.6. Don't necessarily love that, but you know who's going in first-round rookie drafts right now? R.J. Harvey, who Ken Walker's 4 months older than. So if you're hot and bothered by R.J. Harvey, then you don't need to worry about the age of Kenneth Walker. He's going into the contract year. We saw the huge uptick in passing game. That is such a difference maker. Where Ken Walker was more of just those first couple years, he's the grinder, giving you big plays, but we got him in on the passing work, and it was a huge deal. And talk about talent. Among 46 running backs who had 100 or more carries, he's number 1 in forced missed tackle rate. So while the yards per carry of last year was bad. It was under 4. He's still he's doing everything he can. And last year, the Seattle offensive line, Pro Football Focus had that line ranked at 31st, and Seattle has done some things this year to try to address that and make that line stronger. So I just think that this is a running back who has showed us he can be a home run hitter. If he truly is getting more involved in the passing game, does that stick? I think it's a fair question, but at least we saw it. And then the new OC already coming in and at least giving us coach speak that he is enamored and talking up Kenneth Walker, mentioning him by name frequently. So this, to me, Ken Walker should be able to give you he'll get a second contract from somebody. So this is a 3-year player at the running back position, maybe even more, who I don't think is being priced in Dynasty like other guys.
I might be the person that isn't pricing him that way. To me, it's the risk factor that factors into his Dynasty value to me, where it's like, I can see both sides. I can see him having a great career year and getting a great second contract. I can also see him dealing with injury, or just being marginalized on this offense, and suddenly that second contract is a Madison contract, and I don't care about him. So I'm more,
sure, and
I'm just on the other side of that, where maybe my fatigue has run. Like, the Ken Walker breakout experience hasn't happened to the point where, I'm satisfied. It doesn't mean that's not in him, he's not capable of that kind of a season. He's got every incentive in the world being on this roster. But maybe I'm more risk averse here with Walker if I was gonna.
But that's what I mean of the market price. Like this,
I'm not trading a first round pick for him.
It is not universally locked in that Ken Walker is
right. Yeah, that's why
that people love him.
Right. No.
Where like there's other running backs who will be the price will be so catastrophically high for you to go acquire that running back where you
get that possible value.
You have to take some risks in your trades, or then you're just buying people at the absolute ceiling.
Did you have any thoughts on Ken Walker, Jay?
No, I mean, I believe it is a risky pick with giant upside. So, I mean, it's if you believe in Ken Walker, I know Mike obviously does, then this is the perfect time to go trade for a guy that if Ken Walker comes out and has a great year, everything Mike said will be right, and you will have stolen him at a great value. But it is risky because
sure,
you can go both directions.
Yeah, it really can.
I am very curious. We'll take a break. We'll come back with our trade away candidates, and I'll mention mine. And I want to know if you'd rather have Ken Walker or the guy I mentioned. All right, my trade away candidate is touchdown expert extraordinaire. It's James Cook, running back for the Buffalo Bills, who is 25.6 years old. Ken Walker was, what, 24.8? 24.6.
24.6. So a year difference.
So it was obviously a humongous year for James Cook. I had him on my Dynasty roster. This name is going to be perfect to bring up because I will just tell you exactly what I traded him for. I am rebuilding. I was nearly desperate to cash in on the season that James Cook had, because I just find it to be very, very difficult for him to repeat that value. I think he's a really good player. You can be a really good player and not score 16 touchdowns. So
you mean the player who had fewer opportunities per game, lower snap percentage, and managed to score more points?
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns the previous 2 years on the ground, and he was a really good player then too. That didn't change. He was outstanding last year, a top 10 running back. But I was desperate in Dynasty to trade him away. I traded him away for Chuba Hubbard and draft picks, draft capital. And I think I got a couple seconds. Now I'm a rebuilding team. That was fine for me. I was content with that because I feel like Chuba could have just as good of a year as James Cook this year.
And he already has a contract going into the future.
That's part of it too. Is James Cook is here threatening holdouts, or I don't know if I'm going to hold out, or I'm going to hold in, or I want to get paid $14 million a year. Look, I watched this team a lot last year. We all did. It was a great football team, a great offense. They were not afraid to use multiple running backs. Ray Davis, really good running back. Ty Johnson, saw a lot of third downs and pass targets. James Cook is not scoring 16 times on the ground this year again. It's just not going to happen. And so from a dynasty perspective, this is just the moment. This is your moment to go out there and get top 10 value for a guy that probably settles into RB2 category. He'll get another contract, even if it's not the Bills.
I was going to say, when you're talking about trading him away, would you, if you traded him away, do you want him to sign back with Buffalo, or do you like to know that he's locked into this and that his utilization is likely capped? I can't imagine they change anything. Or do you want the boat? Do you want him to hit the market and maybe land in a perfect spot?
I could see,
or take what you know with Buffalo.
I would imagine that if the money comes from Buffalo, then the job security is there with Buffalo, in terms of the way they're going to use him and the fact that, look, it's hard. You wouldn't want your guy leaving a top 5 offense that looks to be a top 5 offense for a bunch of years in a row to go be the guy in Tennessee or something like that. I feel like that was unkind to Tennessee. Just they might not be that bad this year. Just whoever's
rebuilding.
The worst. They're
rebuilding, man. In a year now.
43% of his fantasy points came from touchdowns.
That's a lot.
So it's just low probability that you're going to get the same thing this year. So I felt very a sense of urgency to get him traded.
And he feels so much younger than he is. You're apologizing for a younger player's old age in Kenneth Walker. You asked earlier before the break, which player would you want? I checked my Dynasty rankings. They are back-to-back, but I had Kenneth Walker ahead of James Cook.
Okay. As you should.
So maybe you can trade James Cook for Kenneth Walker plus some stuff.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a dynamite trade.
You could end up going into the offseason and both these guys are out there. I mean, they could be your free agent premier running backs to be signed next offseason together. And based on this year, we'll see who gets more money.
Well, speaking of premier running backs, I have a combo platter of trade-away candidates. The running back 5 in Dynasty Startup, which is obviously very high.
Dude.
And the wide receiver 5 in Dynasty Startups. It is a pair of Eagles, Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown.
What a weird guy. He doesn't like Saquon?
These players are awesome. They will both be top 10 at their position this year, and so someone's going to pay a lot. You're only getting them from, my roster if you pay up for it. You're going to give me a young stud and a 1. And then you can go have an awesome season, you hope, or maybe 2. But the end of the road is coming for these guys. And, this is a trick. We've talked about it a lot. We've done it a lot in our leagues. When you have these top-tier players, these, premier league-winning assets, but they're getting towards the end of their NFL life cycle, you have to get out a year early. Saquon's 28.2 years old. There was a great study we did a couple years ago, and it saw that the number one age of the biggest decline, meaning a 30% decline in PPR per game production.
Whoa, hey.
Yeah, a lot of P's in there. Happens at age 28. That's how old he is. Also, since 2020, 10 running backs have seen 330-plus touches in a regular season. Saquon had 378 plus the playoffs all the way to the Super Bowl. Every single one of them saw a decrease of at least 45 touches the following year, and only 2 played a full season. So, Saquon's a little bit riskier than it seems, and right now he's being valued as the 5th most valuable running backs in startups. And A.J. Brown...
Because he's brutal to...
Oh, yeah.
It's brutal to deal with, man.
A.J. Brown is going to be playing at 28 years old this year. He's been a dynasty stud since entering the league, but I would rather get out a year too early than too late. And the decline in wide receiver when they hit that certain mark, and I'm not even talking about production, I'm talking about fantasy value. Look at the dynasty wide receiver ADP over some of the years of some of the greats. Julio Jones went from 1 year being valued as the wide receiver 12 when he was 30 to wide receiver 30 the next year. A.J. Green went, when he was 29, from being valued in Dynasty as the wide receiver 17 to the wide receiver 41. I mean, these are massive drops. DeAndre Hopkins at 29 went from being the wide receiver 10 the next year in Dynasty startups, wide receiver 40. Even Tyreek, who is still going, last year he was the wide receiver 8. Now he's the wide receiver 33. People stop wanting to buy them. People stop.
Yes.
They change into an old man, even when they're productive. And so you're not going to get value other than what they produce. If you run Larry Fitzgerald till he retires, great. You got the most out of that. But eventually you can't trade them away. A.J. Brown and Saquon, these are players where right now you're not getting out. You're getting a haul. You are getting paid premium prices. You're going to have a lot of value, and I promise over the next 3 years, what you receive if you do good work and go and grab a young stud, a young stud wide receiver plus a 1, that can happen. A young rookie incoming running back plus a future pick. You're going to end up on the plus side of that as you move forward in a dynasty league.
I think that talk there, Jason, of just understanding the market, and because it's like Mike Evans. Mike Evans has been awesome for fantasy football.
Nobody wanted him this offseason.
For the last
nobody.
3
I tried.
Years. Like when I don't even remember when I traded him. It was forever ago. But even at that point, when Mike Evans is still putting up huge years, the market doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
The market, that player is now far more valuable to your actual roster than it is in terms of trading away. So
if I told you Saquon was the RB7 the next 2 years, does it change your view?
Well, yeah. I mean, what's going to happen to him when he hits 30? If he's the running back 7 and then the running back 7 is going to be what happened to Derrick Henry, where you can't trade Derrick Henry. I mean, even 2 years, 3 years, I feel like 4 years ago, we couldn't get hardly anything for Derrick Henry on our roster. So you've got to make the determination, do I want to ride this player into the sunset, into retirement, just get all of their fantasy points, which is a viable option, rebuild elsewhere through the draft, hopefully you find some people, or do you want to maximize and get better, quicker?
No, it makes sense.
Am I up?
You're up.
All right, my trade away. Speaking of knowing
Kenneth Walker.
knowing when to which one should you do?
That would be amazing if you did them both.
Speaking of getting out, while a player still has some
I don't know the
value,
name.
It's Joseph Mixon.
Yeah, you could have guessed this. Oh my gosh,
He is a running back who will be
hated by Mike Wright.
Yes, he hasn't been my favorite, but he's going to be 29 this year. We've already run through a lot of the age cliff metrics, and I took a gigantic L at the beginning of last
so sweet
season
for
because Joe looked awesome. Like he looked sprightly, and then now the end of the year was not great. Granted, he had the ankle injury, so it's harder to know the efficiency of how just he looked.
Yeah,
like he had juice.
His snap counts were way down.
His snap and his efficiency. So I mean, if you're talking like just metrics about the running back, so 46 qualified running backs. I just mentioned that for Kenneth Walker. So Joe Mixon of 46, 39th percent of carries where he was stuffed at the line, 38th in forced missed tackle rate, 41st in success rate on zone runs. Like the guy, and Joe Mixon will probably be fine for fantasy again this year.
You know what he is though?
What's that?
Dog. He's a dog.
Yeah, maybe.
He's a dog.
Maybe. But his like the reason why I really didn't like it when he went to Houston is because he had in Cincinnati, he was getting by on
volume.
Yeah, and
sure.
volume alone. Like we saw some,
and he will this year, and then it will be over.
But that's what I mean.
That is exactly what's going to happen.
When you're at this point of your career, like you have outliers like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is getting volume, but Derrick Henry is still awesome. Joe Mixon is inefficient and just getting all of the touches, and that value that it's unstable. That could disappear and that could crater at any moment that the coaching staff just says, we've had enough. We can't keep dealing with a guy running at 3.5 yards per carry or whatever. We got to try somebody else out. So that's where I'm saying I'm getting out of Joe Mixon. He's hit the classic 1,800 carry cliff where when it's this number that pops up a lot when you have aging running backs. If they've hit that threshold, that time generally wins against those players, and then it's just done. But Joe Mixon, I think, still has some value because he's a running back, a starting running back who will be good this year.
What do you think you can get for him?
That's where my worry would be.
I think there might be a desperate team that will give you a future one, especially now that the draft just happened. They're like, whatever, you can swipe my credit card for next year's first. I don't care. Give me Joe Mixon. But more realistically, you're probably trying to trade him for just to get a little bit younger.
Bet you can get Travis Etienne.
I bet you could. I bet you could.
Travis Etienne's Dynasty.
There was another category.
Value.
There was another category for the show. We didn't put it in, but Jason was going to have it. It was wish he'd never traded for, and it was going to be Travis Etienne.
Yeah, that's whoops.
I've just flipped, by the way. I've gone from like I like Travis Etienne a lot, but it's way more fun.
Join me.
It's so much more fun
being
on
the Etienne hate side it's fun.
It's entertaining.
I literally, you just as a manager of Travis Etienne, you just have to have a vigil. It's the only. It's literally the only.
I'm going to send you a trade right now. I'm going to send you a good trade.
It's going to be Aaron Rodgers for Travis Etienne.
I would never. But
so anyway,
but it's on the
Joe
way.
Mixon is a guy where I am concerned. I think that he can just volume his way into being a good fantasy running back this year, but he'll be on watch of if anyone on that team can show anything that Joe Mixon might lose a bunch of work.
Yeah, I mean he is. He feels like a 1-year rental right now for a team that is competing. He also might be a player. I'm going to tell you this, and this is something I'd love to get both of your opinion on.
It was indeed Aaron Rodgers.
Did you accept the trade? I did offer you Aaron Rodgers. Hall of Famer.
Oh.
Can you say that about Travis Etienne?
I can't.
Dude, Aaron Rodgers
rejected my trade.
Aaron Rodgers is a good bench player. He's a locker room presence.
Oh,
leadership.
Yeah. He's just done so well over his last few seasons, leading teams to great draft picks.
Here's the question I have for both of you. When you're thinking about rebuilding, and this is just coming straight from the heart, but I've made some trades in the last week to head towards a rebuild. But there have been some players in some discussions where I realized it's the middle of the year that this is going to be a better trade. And I wonder if
timing is
players like Joe Mixon that don't seem sexy in the offseason in a Dynasty League suddenly seem a little bit more attractive
2 weeks in when they're dominating the first 2 weeks.
When they're, or at the trade deadline when they're at the RB7 and somebody is on the cut, they have an injury. There's a reason why some free agents right now aren't signed with teams. And that's because they're waiting for opportunities to develop. And I think in fantasy, that happens too. You're going to have injuries in the first 6 weeks of the year. And suddenly a team that was a contender that loses a main running back, Joe Mixon looks really good.
Yes.
In that moment.
Yeah, it is a very good point, knowing when to time the market of, like, people always ask, when trading my draft picks. Well, you can see the rise in value right before your trade deadline, and then there is a drastic decrease in value. And then as you approach the real NFL draft, all of a sudden your firsts start getting a little bit more valuable. So yes, timing those things out does affect when you should do it. But it's Dynasty Week right now, so I have to tell you to trade him right now.
Yeah, and there are more trade targets in the Dynasty Pass, Mike's special section of the Dynasty Pass there. You can get it as part of the UDK Plus at ultimatedraftkit.com. June 1st is when it's released. Right now is the pre-order price. UltimateDraftKit.com. Get the UDK Plus or become an Ultimate Foot Clan supporter to get the UDK Plus for free as part of that membership. You can check that all out at UltimateDraftKit.com. That is going to do it for today's episode of the show. On Thursday, Dynasty Week continues. We have Rookie Sleepers, Dynasty FAQ, Mailbag, and more. Do not miss a minute of it. The 5th annual Dynasty Week. Halfway done.
Oh, no.
You sure you don't want Aaron Rodgers?
I'm sure.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.